America is an amazing country filled with wonderful people who do incredible things. But too often, the media and liberal politicians ignore big parts of our nation and the people who make it work. So I'm speaking with leaders and policymakers who deal with real problems every day. I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is Real America. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Jen Kiggans, the Republican nominee for Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. We're going to cover everything from her incredible resume and military service to veterans issues and how Democrat policies have hurt our children's education. So I am really excited to have Jen Kiggans on Real America. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to introduce you to everybody, but I'm starting things a little different because you are a candidate. You are one of the top House seats in Virginia to flip back the House and retire Nancy Pelosi. So I'm going to start with and I'm going to end with, how do we support your campaign? So while people are listening, they can go be donating. So how do we support you in your candidacy?
Great. So probably the easiest way is on my website, which is www.jenforcongress, so JENFOR Congress.com. Very easy. And there's an address if you prefer to mail a check, or you can donate right there online.
Perfect. Make sure to help her. She needs the money. Elaine Loria is spending a ton against her, and Jen is absolutely a stellar candidate, which you're going to learn right now. So let's get to know you a little bit. So which district are you running in Virginia? Talk about your district that you're running in.
Yeah, so this is the 2nd district in Virginia, which is Hampton Roads area. And with redistricting, it became more Republican for us.
Good.
So it went from R+1 to about R+6, which is not, R+25, but it's winnable. It's winnable at R+6, very winnable, especially this cycle. So we have all of Virginia Beach area, and then I have the Eastern Shore. We lost some of the Democratic strongholds of Norfolk and the Peninsula, but we gained places like Chesapeake and Suffolk, Franklin, Smithfield, Isle of Wight. So we're very excited about a more conservative district. It's a more rural district, a more common sense district. It's not far red. It's not far blue. It's still a very purpley district, but the winds that are back, especially in Virginia, with a lot of the momentum from last year. So we're feeling good about it.
And you're running against a Democrat incumbent who's going to be really well funded. So I want to get to know you a little bit better because you are absolutely perfect for this district with your background. So Navy, helicopter pilot, nurse, mom, 4 kids. Talk about you a little bit. Where'd you grow up? How'd you end up getting into the Navy and becoming a helicopter pilot?
Yeah, good question. So I actually grew up in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
I'm from Florida.
No way. And, we're in Orlando right now for everybody who doesn't know.
So it's good to be home for a day.
Yeah.
And then I went to school at Boston University, studied international relations. Actually took a year off to go teach English in Japan. We had such a delay to start flight school that I had been an exchange student in Japan and
cool.
went back.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was.
Do you speak Japanese?
That's my second language. It's a little rusty, but I do love that country.
Cool.
Just that East Asian understanding is important to me. So I graduated from college in the year that women could fly in combat for the first time, and after being on a ROTC scholarship, we had to pick a job in the Navy. So going to flight school seemed like a great fit and a great challenge. And showed up at flight school, met my husband, who's the F-18 pilot, who served for 20 years. And then once I was winged as a naval aviator, flew H-46 helicopters and H-3s for 10 years and deployed a couple times to the Persian Gulf. And then we were involved in the Kosovo conflict and the Adriatic and flew humanitarian missions in that part of the world. So served with some of the greatest Americans for 10 years. It was an honor of a lifetime. Missed that job very much. So got out of the Navy after 10 years and started raising my family with my husband.
And 4 kids.
We had 4 children. So
which is harder, being a helicopter pilot or raising 4 kids?
I definitely have an appreciation for being a military spouse as well. Probably that stay-at-home mom time was the hardest job I think I have done.
That had to have been hard.
Being a stay-at-home mom. You're worried about your kids. You're worried about their school, their safety, paying the bills. My husband was deployed a lot, so but it was great to be able to stay home with my children, and such an important job. I did that for about 5 or 6 years and had a GI Bill that was burning a hole in my pocket. So knew I wanted to go back to school. I have a mother who's a nurse and a brother who's a nurse, and I just had grandparents who were very impactful in my life. And I saw one set of grandparents aged in a nursing home and had Alzheimer's disease, and another set who lived near New York City and traveled the world and very independent. So I just wanted to be, to serve and to be a participant in healthcare. care for our greatest generation. That's been the honor of a lifetime to be able to do that. So I did go back to school. I went to ODU, got my bachelor's degree in nursing into Vanderbilt, and got my master's degree in adult geriatric as an adult geriatric nurse practitioner, and have been able to work then in long-term care and assisted living, home health, hospice. I love working in memory care units. I've worked for just memory clinics. That's been just it's fascinating to be involved, just helping caregivers.
I'm kind of exhausted, Jen. Like, how have you done this all? How are you? You're so young. How are you doing all this? And then you were a state senator too.
Yes. So after, and I continued to work. We're part-time legislators in Virginia. So in 2019, I really just hated what I saw on TV. Right? I mean, how many people out there are watching the news and yelling at their televisions? Because that's what my parents did. That's what I've always
what my
done.
husband does.
We
all
still
do it.
Yeah. It's a nightmare out there. So I hated the division. I hated some of the negative rhetoric. I thought, gosh, we can do better than this. We can do better for our country. We need better leaders. And I saw a lot of Democratic women running. This was the first time Elaine Luria ran on the 2nd District. So I saw a lot of, it's funny, I had a squatter mate who ran in New Jersey for Congress, and she won a congressional seat. We had flown together. So I thought, well, if these women are doing it, especially these veteran women, where are the Republican veteran women? Because I certainly don't feel represented. And there were none. And then in Virginia, we have no women at all that are Republicans or conservatives that represent our Commonwealth up in the halls of Congress.
Wow.
So for me, completely underrepresented, and so it inspired me to want to run for office. I literally went to a weekend crash course in how to run a campaign, and the state senator from my district retired pretty abruptly, and the seat was open. And so we literally Googled how do you get on the ballot, and then just started knocking a lot of doors and talking to carpool moms and soccer team moms, and we were working our tails off, right?
And
that's how you win. You knock doors, you talk to voters. Yeah. So we won in 2019, and that was the year of the blue wave in Virginia.
That's right.
So if you remember, the Democrats were on a mission that year. We had very slim majorities in our state house and state senate. We had a Democrat in the governor's mansion, Ralph Northam.
Yep.
So I showed up after that great victory. I was the only new Republican in the state Senate that year, and it was the year of the blue wave, and they did flip the House and Senate. So then I sat in what was one-party liberal progressive rule, and I had a front row seat there. And I call it the danger and insanity, really, of one-party progressive liberal rule, because what I sat through and have had a front row seat to has been wrong. It's the wrong way to govern. We saw the most just egregious and extreme legislation that was passed the first 2 years I sat there. And I was just fresh out of being a Navy veteran healthcare provider
You're
mom.
probably
I'm
like,
what is going on here?
What is going on here?
It was
This
awful
is crazy.
to sit through. We saw attacks on our constitutional rights, Second Amendment rights, our fights for life, our fights to keep our kids in school, our fights for our businesses, our fights for law enforcement, fights for how we conduct elections. I mean, every single one of those things was sent through legislation. They were on an agenda, and it passed out of both chambers and was signed by our Democratic governor.
And now it's been rejected by the voters of the Commonwealth of Virginia, because now we have Glenn Youngkin. Clearly, I think that Virginia is the first step of rejecting the radical extremism from the Democrat Party. And you're going to be that second wave of that in your state. But you saw it firsthand as a state senator. So what made you decide to run for Congress?
So it motivates me because what I sat through on the state level, in that room, in that chamber, we see exactly the same thing happening in the halls of Congress right now. It's the same one-party progressive liberal rule. And we have a Democrat-controlled House of Representatives, a Democrat Senate, and a Democrat in the White House. And that's led to some extremism that is not good for America. It's not best for Americans. So it really motivates me on a daily basis just to get out there, to be a part of flipping the U.S. House, which I know we can do this year, but it's a fight. That fight is very real for me. I've sat through that fight. It was, just in the news and on the television before I was there in the room, but in the room, I mean, it is a true fight, and I care that much about my country, having served my country in the military, about my kids and my family. I mean, I want to leave them a great country that I know America is. About my patients, my constituents, just the people of Virginia, the people of America. We deserve better than that.
I think so. I think what you're saying resonates with a lot of people right now. And I think this is, and I say this a lot, but it's going to be an election really about common sense versus crazy. I mean, Glenn Youngkin didn't run on radical things. It's not radical to say parents should have a say in their kids' education. It's not radical to say we should be able to afford groceries and gas and be able to have a job and a livelihood. And when you see the Democrats doubling down on things that are extreme and really don't make an impact in the lives of average citizens. It's harmful.
Yeah.
And thank you for stepping up in the arena and doing that. So let's talk a little bit about your expertise, because you come from a high military population in your district. We actually just opened a veterans office in your district. So talk about your constituents. What do you feel are some of the main issues that you're going to deal with in Congress when it comes to our veterans and our military?
Yeah, I love talking about the military because it's one of the personal reasons why I run. And yes, thank you for opening that Veterans Center in Virginia Beach. It was great to be a part of. But I'm the daughter of a Army Green Beret who served in Vietnam, and my husband served for 20 years. I'm a military spouse in addition to being a helicopter pilot. And I have children now who serve. I have a son who's a rising senior at the senior at the Naval Academy, and a sophomore who's at Virginia Military Institute and Navy ROTC. So, we look at things like what happened last year with Afghanistan withdrawal and that chaotic withdrawal. And in 1 week, we look at what you did to our country and our standing on the world stage. And that was an embarrassment, right?
It was so awful.
America's a good and strong country, and you made us look weak and embarrassed on the world stage. And I'm sick of watching that. You made us, we should be a deterrent, and we weren't a deterrent that day. And we provided stability. I served there. My husband served there. Our friends and colleagues served there. We provided some stability in a very dangerous part of the world. And you took that away from us. You took that away from all veterans and from all active duty servicemen and women. So by the way, you killed 13 servicemen and women as well. And we're not going to let you forget that, because there's no reason for those deaths. The blood of those guys is on Joe Biden's hands. So that's why I run, because I think of now my kids, and I think of my son and his friend, my sons and their friends. And now I leave to them a world that's not as safe, that's not as stable. I know that. I mean, look at what happened in Russia and in Ukraine. That's a direct result of us not being a deterrent, not being strong. And I know that China is waiting and watching to go into Taiwan, and we have enemies out there. So now you are literally putting my children at risk. You are putting my sons and their friends at risk. So now I'm a mad mom, right? Now I'm a mom on a mission. And that's one thing you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, mom on a mission. I've been hearing that a lot lately. I love it.
Very much. So, but it's important for us as veterans to want to continue. We want to continue to serve our country. My life has been about service. So things like the Veterans Center that we opened in Virginia Beach, I mean, it is great. It gives us a home, right, to be able to use our political voices. Because in the military, we don't talk about political parties.
You have to be apolitical.
You do, and we do what the country asks us to do. But when we get out, it's a process and a transition. We still want to serve. We still really care about the country. So it's hard for us to start using our voices. So having a place like a Veterans Center really just allows us, again, to have that home, to be able to talk to each other, to organize. The Democrats, they tried to attack us on opening a Republican Veterans Center. Actually helping veterans in our community. And how unpatriotic is that for them to attack us on doing something that...
But I do think what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because being a veteran, being a wife of a veteran, being a daughter, but now a mother, when you see what Joe Biden did, and he's looking at his watch, right? As he's greeting the fallen soldiers and seeing their families, the disrespect, that one moment,
right,
embodies the disrespect he had for those mothers, those fathers whose daughters and sons were killed in Afghanistan under his watch.
Yes.
But he didn't want to talk to the American people about it. He didn't want to say I did anything wrong. In fact, he applauded himself. So thank you for being willing to step up and be a voice for military families. With your background, you're going to make a huge impact, because you get to speak as a mother of two young men who want a good commander-in-chief, who want a country and a Congress that's fighting for them and making the best decisions on their behalf too. That's so great. Yeah. I'm so glad you're doing that. So let's talk about your opponent. She is way outspending you right now. Right. She's got a lot of money. We know the Democrats have, all their big tech friends and their Hollywood friends just pouring money into their campaigns. And I said this earlier today. We were just in a meeting earlier. Democrats are going to try and make this issue about anything other than the economy and gas prices and our education, and they're really coming to you on abortion. That's the issue. They're going to try and make abortion the number one issue post Dobbs. So talk about your response to her and what you're seeing in this race.
Yeah, so abortion is an issue this cycle with the reversal of the Dobbs decision. So, we have to be careful, especially as Republicans, as Republican women, and how we discuss the issue. We have to exercise compassion. As a female, as a mom, as a nurse practitioner, I feel well equipped to have the discussion because it's a complicated one. It really is. But I will say this about my opponent. They are lying. They lie. They have lied about me. They have lied about a lot of women candidates, a lot of men candidates too, but calling us extremists on abortion, saying we don't allow for exceptions, which is not the case. And they do this to distract from what their extreme position is on abortion. And I'm running against a congresswoman who has voted on the U.S. House floor for the Women's Health Protection Act, which allows for abortion up to 9 months for any reason and at taxpayer expense. And she will not tell you that. She doesn't tell you any of her.
No.
She votes with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi 99% of the time. And that's my job, to educate voters. But they are trying to distract from their very extreme views on abortion. And 80% of Americans disagree with allowing for abortions up to 9 months. In Virginia, and just so people understand, the reversal of Roe versus Wade brings it to the state house now,
Exactly.
right? So it's a state discussion. And in Virginia, we have some of the most liberal abortion laws, and they've been harmful to women. I care about women. I care about women's mental health. I care about being supportive of women. And some of the laws we've passed in Virginia have been extreme and, taken away education requirements, ultrasound options, waiting periods. We allow nurse practitioners to perform abortions in Virginia. We've done things that have been the wrong direction for women. And Democrats, they say they're the party of women and this and that, but you're hurting women by not letting them make informed choices. So, I'm a pro-life candidate. I want women to be able to choose life at every chance they can. So I want to equip you to make a good decision. I want to exercise compassion and care. I understand this is a crisis moment for women. But I'll tell you what I'm against, and again, what most Americans are against, and that's what the Democrats want. And in Virginia, we had that legislation.
Yeah.
We had a representative who wanted to allow for abortions up to 9 months. We clarified that this allows for up to the moment of the birth. She said yes. And then we had Ralph Northam saying if the baby survives abortion, we're just going to let it be comfortable.
I know.
And this became a national clip that we used when our governor said that. So people need to understand that is the fight, and the Democrats will use the issue, and they will lie about Republican stance on the issue.
And I think, I think this is true too with the Democrats. They want to make this the only issue. And I think it's actually a little insulting to voters, especially women. Mm-hmm. Jen, do you get to wake up every day and think about one issue? We are not single issue voters.
Right.
We're the whole voter.
Right.
And that's what the Republican Party's talking about. This is going to send it back to the states. The states are going to find consensus. Right. There's going to probably be compromise based on what the voters want, but the Democrats will not answer to their extreme position. Should we have gender selection abortions? Democrats are for that. I'm sorry, as a woman, I'm very opposed to aborting a baby just because it's a girl.
Right.
Taxpayers shouldn't have to fund something they morally disagree with. I think most Americans agree with that, and certainly 9 month and a due date when that baby can be adopted, when that baby feels pain.
Right.
That's extreme. And so Democrats won't answer to that, but they want to talk about it all day long, except talk about their position.
Right.
But we as Republicans need to address it, which you're doing, and then also talk about the issues facing Americans right now under Joe Biden's America.
Right.
Crime is a huge issue.
Yes.
Education's a huge issue. Our kids have been so catastrophically left behind by the Democrat policies.
Yep.
What are some of the other issues you're hearing in your district?
Yeah, so I love door knocking. That is the best thing about running a campaign. My husband loves door knocking.
I think that's a little unique because I actually like door knocking too. Yeah,
I love it. We ride our bikes to every door. It's great. We can talk to thousands of voters.
Are your kids doing it too?
They will on occasion, but it's my husband and I really leading the charge. But what we hear at the doors is people that really aren't happy with the direction of the country. I'd say that's the number one thing I hear. And when they want to really do a more of a dive into why, absolutely the economy, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Economy's
I pay
number
bills
one issue.
too.
Yeah.
My kid's Civic used to cost $20 to fill up for the week. Here's your $20. Go do what you need to do. Get to school, get to your clubs, and now it's $60 at least. And I have 3 kids that drive, so this is an added expense that every American is paying for at the gas pump, at the grocery stores. This is going to drive people out to vote, and it's the direct result of just failed economic policies. The wasteful spending that happens in D.C. I don't know if money grows on trees up there. I'm going to find the money trees. I don't know. It's like, I have to pay my bills at my house, and I don't spend more money than I take in. And I think it's irresponsible of what the federal government.
So the economy is the number one issue. Are they correlating the inflation, the fake Inflation Reduction Act. Are they correlating Biden's policies with that? Are they getting that when you talk to them, or do they just know it's a problem?
So we will call them out on it a lot and talk about, they name these bills, all these positive things when they do nothing positive.
Yeah, exactly.
And Elaine Luria just last week was, we clipped her saying, well, the Inflation Reduction Act, I voted for that. That's just its name only. It's really a huge environmental bill. So she said that. So we clipped that, and we're making sure the voters know about that issue. I mean, the bill literally, $80 billion for 87,000 IRS agents. We could have used that money in really important places like the border. We need more Border Patrol agents, like schools. We need more school resource
Support
officers.
Our veterans, right?
Support our veterans. Recruitment for the military. I mean, it can go in so many different directions. And the fact that you chose that to expand government and to make for big government, that is not the direction. That is not the answer for any solution, is to expand government intervention. So, but this is just, again, all part of their agenda. They want to continue to waste trillions of dollars of our taxpayer money on promoting their agenda. We've got to stop that.
So in 2021, when Glenn won and Winsome and Jason, education was a big issue in Virginia. I mean, we saw Democrats labeling moms and dads domestic terrorists. You're a mother of 4. You've got 2 school-age kids or high school kids. How big of an issue is that right now in Virginia when you say you're a mama on a mission?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it was the victories we had last November were such a success, and we worked our tails off last year, and it was a team effort like I've never been a part of. So, but it just goes to show you what we can do when we put our heads together like that. We knew the country was watching, and we wanted to provide that hope by winning those important elections. So it's awesome to have Governor Youngkin, and I sit in the Senate with Winsome Sears, and have Jason Miyares, who's a good friend, and we flipped our House of Delegates. So great victories we celebrated, but a huge reason we won was that education piece.
It was.
And if you remember the debate with Terry McAuliffe when he said, no, I don't think parents should have a voice in their kids' education. I mean, they locked our schools, and then they tried to lock out our parents last year. And Glenn Youngkin showed up and said, parents matter. Parents want a voice in their kids' education. We need more transparency in things like our school curriculum. We're seeing test scores that are at a 30-year low.
Yep.
I have a sister who's a teacher. I mean, and I'm just watching my own children. And it was hard. How hard was it to watch when
it's so hard.
The tears when my daughter couldn't log on to her digital class because it's a digital and everybody's on Wi-Fi in my house. And I mean, that was hard to sit through. But on top of that, we saw what they were actually learning and what they were studying. And we need to know what they're studying out there. In addition to that, we need to expand some options for parents. I mean, I'm a big supporter of school choice. Your zip code should never determine what kind of education you're getting. So we got to be more supportive of our teachers as well. However we can help them financially, just like our law enforcement. I mean,
Totally.
Teachers and law enforcement.
We love our
completely
teachers.
underpaid.
It's not about the teachers. I have friends who've left teaching because of the stress that they felt
Right.
of dealing with their own kids, and then also the remote learning. They had a lot coming at them.
Yeah.
My husband's family they're all teachers. It's not about, we're so grateful for our teachers, but the unions and the Democrats did not pay attention to our kids. I just find it very counterintuitive because parents know their kids best. So why wouldn't you want them as part of the conversation? I was just, my son just started high school his senior year, and one of the teachers sent a note to us and said, can you please tell us about your son?
Yeah.
The teachers want us involved too.
Yes.
They want to know about our kids.
Yeah.
But do you think parents are getting involved because they want a bad outcome for their kids? Is that what you actually think? It's not that. It's that the unions, they want carte blanche to do what they want and use our schools as an indoctrination.
Yes. This wokeness that's happening in our education system, that's why there needs to be more transparency about the curriculum because it is leaking in, not just in our K through 12 education. I worry so much about our colleges and universities. I worry about places, the schools my kids attend, like our service academies, because we see it filtering down to that. There's no place for that. There's no place for that in education. There's no place for that in the military.
And you can do something about that in Congress with especially our service.
Yeah, and I want a seat at that table. I'm running against a congresswoman who is vice chair of the Armed Services Committee. She's had that seat, and yet she complains that Joe Biden's budget guts the needs of the Navy. Well, you've been in the majority party that controls those purse strings, and you haven't gotten it done, not just for our active duty. We've got to take care of those people. But I want a seat at that table. It's time for her to be replaced.
I love it. I'm just going to end with one other thing with your broad resume, but I do want to talk about this. You're a nurse for geriatric patients. We have a population that's getting older.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you think will be important that you can do in Congress for healthcare and our elderly population?
Yeah, it's been a great honor to be a voice for our older adults and their caregivers on the state level, and I really look forward to doing that. And the federal level as well, there's not a lot of advocates for geriatrics and for our aging population, so it's just an honor to do that. But I want to first and foremost say that we've got to protect Medicare, right? I mean, so many of my patients, our seniors, our older Americans, greatest generation, rely on Medicare.
Yeah.
We need to make Medicare stronger so that we can protect it for future generations as well. That $700 billion that we took from Medicare to spend on Obamacare, we need to get back to Medicare. So I need my patients to get good health care so that it can relieve the burden. Right now, we've got a huge caregiver burden out there. It's been a great honor to advocate for caregivers and really look at some of our facility level care too on the state level. There's so much need for nursing home reform out there. There's so much need to advocate for our providers because we talk about mental health, and as politicians, we like to throw that word around. And gosh, I mean, we could talk about mental health care for our students, that we're seeing the need for to reach out to those guys, but for really everyone in the aging spectrum.
So true.
And we have to do better. We don't have the providers that we should have. So how can I be a voice for providers? We're at a nursing crisis right now. So we've been able to do some good things on the local level, but and state level. But I really want to do that on the federal level as well. And look out for my greatest generation, their patients, but their caregivers and their providers.
I love that you're bringing that background. I just think of my mom loves Medicare. I mean, she talks about it. You just think of especially our nursing home patients who were hurt so much in the pandemic from Democrat policies, pushing COVID-infected patients into the nursing home or isolating them. I mean, Democrats really let down our senior citizens during the pandemic. So you're just going to bring so much with military, with mom, with your nursing background. I'm so excited for you to be in the House.
Thank you. Me too.
One final thing, and this will just be fun. Or maybe not fun, but what do you say to that voter who's jaded and, they're all the same, and what difference does it make? Or I don't know if my vote's going to count. What are you saying to people about the greatness of this country and why they need to engage?
Well, I have it a little easier in Virginia because I can use the example of last year and what happened when we really did get people out to vote and to use their voices. But I tell them they need to be hopeful and enthusiastic and excited because we can do this. We did it last year. We're going to do it again. And we need, 5 seats to flip the U.S. House? And this is absolutely going to be one of them. Elaine Luria has been voting with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden's agenda 99% of the time. And we've been lied to for 4 years. She plays a moderate. She's not a moderate. So I know that district. My state Senate district sits in the heart of the Congressional district. We're good common sense people, proud Americans. We want what's best for our kids. We care about kitchen table issues. That's what I talk about. I talk about things that you and I and every other voter out there cares about. Community safety, our kids in schools, how much we're paying for gas, our military. These are the things that I will continue to talk to and educate voters. So that's why just all financial support and the help that we need as candidates.
Give your. I said I'd start with it. Let's end with it. I mean, now you heard her, guys. You just heard her. You gotta support her.
Got to get that message out to voters. So www.jenforcongress, JENFOR Congress.com. But it's a great honor to be in the fight. I'm really excited about flipping this seat this year and helping to be a part of the great team that's going to flip the U.S. House and get the country back on the right track.
Okay, so everybody get involved. Go give to Jen for Congress. Thank you so much for being part of my podcast, but most importantly, thank you for taking this on and running for Congress. I'm excited for November when you get elected.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jen.
Appreciate it.
I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is what Republicans stand for. Join us next time on Real America.